welcome back. For some of you maybe hadn't come to the first session, so I want to introduce you all. Welcome to the LEAP Leadership Engagement Advancement Program and AWS, sponsored by BDSI, and this man is our executive sponsor. Yay! I'm going to let him introduce himself properly in a second, but again, thank you all for taking the time on a Thursday night in downtown San Francisco, and we're so excited to have you here and continue to share our leadership, share some snacks, and connecting. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to let these two amazing leaders share their experience and take notes. They're going to tell you, they're going to showcase how they live by the leadership principles, but they're going to be all humble about it. So just enjoy, sit back. They're really amazing people, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. All right, you're on.
Shaun, could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Shaun Nandi. Shaun rhymes with town. It's one of my favorite little things that I get made fun of for a lot. I get made fun of all the time, especially by my partner. She can't stand the rhyme, but it helps. I live in New York. I've been with AWS a bit over 3 years. I'm responsible for our technical field teams, our solution architects, our customer solutions managers who support some of our largest customers in industries and strategic accounts. Our acronym for that's BDSI, which you don't have to know. It's just an acronym. We like our acronyms.
We do. We love them.
And before I was here, I was a customer for many years. So I have a fun customer lens that I might get to tell you about sometime today.
Great. Welcome.
Yes.
My name is Kathy Bender. I met many of you earlier this evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm on the sales side. So I'm also in BDSI. Horrible acronym, actually. We're not so good at acronyms. But I lead a set of accounts in strategic accounts. And Shaun mentioned that strategic is where we put some of our very largest customers, long-standing customers. And I lead a team of ISVs. So these are customers that, use our services and we help them innovate, but we also partner. I'm kind of challenged with where to put the microphone, so I'm sorry about that. But we also partner with them. We build solutions together. We go to market. We co-sell. So there's definitely a partner angle to my role as well. In addition to strategic accounts, to just give you a feel, we have a global industry team. We have some folks from the global industry team with us this evening. We have an enterprise team that's broken out geographically. We have small and medium business. We have all kinds of different segments. So you may meet people here from strategics, but we have a lot of different segments for you to express an interest in. So welcome. So that was the kind of official introduction, but now let's have a little fun. What about who are you really, Shaun? Tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, don't overshare, please.
I gave you a rhyme for my name. I don't know what else you could need to know. So a few different things. I grew up, I said I lived in New York. I've actually lived in New York a really long time. I'm not going to tell you how long because I'll feel old, and I'm not old. I'm very young. But I grew up in Oklahoma and Texas. My parents were researchers. My dad was a physics professor. So Oklahoma to New York was a pretty big change. And my parents were immigrants. So that was a big part of where I grew up. And I love travel. I like to drink good wine. Dangerous, never know when that's right.
That's why we get along so well.
Absolutely. And I'm a tech guy. So, when Kathy said she was in sales, I've been in tech a long time. Now, that's a pretty broad set of words, being in tech. No one's quite sure what it means. I just like technology. I like to play with it. I like to mess with it. You'll always see me spending my dollars excessively on the coolest, latest gadget, which is sort of problematic in my personal life sometimes. Yeah, that's me in a bit of a nutshell.
Awesome. That's great. Just sharing a bit of information about myself as well. I'm originally from the Midwest. Grew up in Michigan. Huge Michigan State fan. I'm sorry if you're a U of M fan. You probably win this year, but we'll see. Youngest of a family of 6. That really helped kind of define who I am, which I'll talk about later this evening. But I grew up, I was very close to my mother, and she always said, you can do anything you want in life. And it wasn't just one time. She said it multiple times. So what did I do? I got into the tech space. I won't say how many years ago, but a few. And I was definitely one of the only females, probably 99% of the time. Had a blast. I love what I do today with AWS. I spent many years at Microsoft. But I want to encourage all of you to figure out what is that thing for you? What is that motivates you? Maybe it's someone telling you you can do anything you want in life, but go for it. And we look forward to talking with you about that this evening. So that's my story.
Love it.
Yeah. Now we'll get a little more serious. We talk a lot, Shaun and I live the lens of diversity. And it's really important in the culture of Amazon and AWS. You'll hear us talk about ID&E, inclusion, diversity, and equity. And it's a core value, frankly, that we have. Shaun, I'd like to get feedback from you on how does diversity benefit your teams and our customers?
Yeah, probably a couple facets to that question. One is, you'll hear us talk at some point, you've heard other people talk about our customer obsession LP, and putting yourself in the position your customer's in, working backwards from their problems. And one challenge in doing that is if you don't have employees and team members and partners who look and think like your customers. And our customers in this team especially are global. They're multinational. They come in all shapes and sizes. They come with different backgrounds, different industries, different nationalities. And if we don't have team members, leaders who look like them, who think like them, who have shared backgrounds with them, whether it's industry background or the first language they spoke or shared experiences, it's hard to put yourself in their mindset. And more importantly, you have to be in the mindset of our customers' customers, right? Which becomes the entire world effectively. We have some of the largest enterprises that we get to work with who work in every dimension. And from a personal perspective, when we think about bringing talent in, it's really easy to sort of come up with stereotypical assumptions on what you need. So I'm in technology, I've been in technology a long time, but if you made a stereotypical assumption, the only person who could be in technology when I graduated, which was very recently, is someone who had, a computer science degree or a math degree.
Not too long before
right?
me, right?
My major was economics, and I was a tech guy, but my major was economics. It was an awesome major. It would not have shortlisted me to go in at the time into the IT profession. And if someone had used that sort of assumptiveness about hiring, they would have missed out on me, I would have missed out on a bunch of experiences. So we can't limit ourselves to sort of some artificial assumptions on where the best talent can come from, especially the best talent for different roles. We find people with different experiences bring that perspective, both understanding our customers, but helping us think differently about how we approach problems.
Very well said. There's not a whole lot that I can add to that. I do think diversity in teams, like individual teams that you work with within AWS, with our partners, even teams with our customers, to Shaun's point, bringing that different perspective to the table. I can't tell you how many times, internally, I've gotten my team together and we're talking about a topic and someone with a diverse perspective brings up something that nobody else considered. That would not have happened if we didn't have a diverse team. So tons of power in that. Tons and tons of power. And this is personally why I'm super committed to this topic. I'm on the board of LA Promise Fund in Southern California, an organization focused on giving children a quality education. I focus on lots of activities within AWS around ID&E, and it's just something that I'm committed, and I know Shaun is committed to continue to invest in because it just makes a huge, huge difference. So I'm going to switch gears, and it's on the script. Don't worry, kind of. We talk about diversity, and different leadership styles are really what makes the world go round. And lots of times you take a job or a position because you have that background, and you're passionate about doing that. You have previous experience. You may like the company. But oftentimes, at the end of the day, you want to have a lot of respect for who you work for. So lots of different leadership styles in this room at AWS, but we thought we'd give you a little glimmer, whether it be right, wrong, or indifferent, around Shaun and I's leadership principle, or leadership style, sorry. when I think about, and I'll start. I'll be courageous here and start.
Please.
So when I think about my leadership style, it's really, and I've given a lot of talks about this, the blend of empathy and grit. And being empathetic and putting yourself in someone else's shoes and understanding where someone might be coming from, whether it be they had a rough day, whether it be something going on in their life, whether it be their perspective based on where they come from, but then also managing with a certain kind of fire in the belly, grit, and having a very strong bias for action. It's one of my strengths and it's one of my weaknesses because sometimes I move too quick. But just, I find the combination of being that empathetic leader and putting yourself in other people's shoes, but operating with that sense of urgency and having kind of that fire in the belly and grit has been very, very effective for me. So that's just a glimpse of my leadership style. How about you, Sean?
You know, there are a lot of pieces of the leadership style, and I'm going to sort of watch the room and make sure none of my team members who are out there are like shaking their heads going, that's definitely not true. So maybe.
I had
we'll
some
see.
people laughing at mine, so I think I nailed it.
But one of mine is I try to be open. Sometimes a synonym for open in that context is being a bit vulnerable. So maybe an example from this morning, which definitely isn't on the script. We did a hackathon in this room. We did a hackathon in 3 different geographies, and it was sort of run out of this room, and you see all the AV equipment. It was here for you, but it was also here for that hackathon. It was a great, frugal opportunity to do 2 things in one place. And at the end of it, we had this amazing team win, this really amazing idea. I'd love to tell you about it, but they're probably going to patent it. And what I said and what I thought about was that during that whole hackathon where I was the judge, one of the 4 judges, and getting to make decisions, I had a ton of imposter syndrome. And the imposter syndrome was really simple. All these folks were doing these amazing things. It's like, can I keep up? Can I do that? And I'm happy to share that because I can see in almost everyone I meet in this company, you have a ton of imposter syndrome. You meet these amazing people you work with and you wonder if I can keep up. And the answer is you usually can. And that's probably one of the examples of like, I think being honest versus always putting on that brave face, always having the answer. I try to admit, oftentimes I do it more to my directs, the people I work with the closest. I don't know the answer because I often don't know the answer. I can often come up with an answer. That doesn't mean I know the actual answer. So I think that's a pretty important element. It'll fit into one of our LPs if we get to it later today around not always, you can be confident in yourself. That doesn't mean you shouldn't look for and seek information from others on what could be the right answer. Yeah. And you have to be a little bit vulnerable and open for people to be comfortable to share that with you.
Yeah. It's a culture here of being humble and just, being open to that. That's really, really important. And you'll meet a lot of people, to Shaun's point, that are very, very intelligent, but there's also this humbleness in our culture, which is something that attracted me to AWS. Okay, I'm going to flip it on you again. You mentioned that you used to be a customer.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that. And what about that experience have shaped you and made you kind of who you are at AWS?
Yeah, it was pretty impactful. So my last job was at a company called Dow Jones, part of News Corp. And I got to this amazing role there. I got to be CIO. And one of our major initiatives was moving to the cloud, which literally is what our teams here help our customers do all the time. We were one of the first enterprises to stand up on stage and say, we want to move 75% of everything we do to the cloud. By the way, now saying that is not super courageous. It sounds pretty normal. It's in. But in 2013, it was weird. People were like, what are you doing? And that's what attracted me at the time to Dow Jones. What was really different and interesting was I got to meet, at the time, my AWS account team. Someone who's in the account manager role, one of the first customer solutions managers in the company, someone who was a solution architect, and there was more of these pro-serve folks. And I sort of had this assumption, and I'm going to speak in my customer persona, so this is not in my AWS persona. And the assumption was, these people seem pretty nice, but they're not here for me. They're here for my dollar. They're here for my business, right? And over that 5-year period, I got a really different perspective. I saw customer obsession in action. It was pretty cool. I actually tried to play a pretty big joke on my account team once where I was telling them I was deferring a huge purchase, and I got like one of the TAMs or technical account managers, in the joke with me. And
That's super mean, by the way.
It was super mean.
That's super
No,
mean.
but you know what?
Just
No one
saying.
cared. The account manager was like, no problem. I want to understand your concerns. We can talk
That's
about
true.
it next week.
That's
and I was like, in my head, I'm like, next week's next quarter. Isn't that a problem?
No.
And it took me a long time to realize that AWS had made a decision that if they acted in the best interest of their customer, it would work out. Things would go right for everyone involved. And that really drew me to AWS. There are a lot of other reasons I like AWS, a lot of other things I learned. But that was one, that customer obsession LP, that caught me. And it took me a long time to realize that these leadership principles that my account team would talk to me about, and initially I was like, I don't really care, they mattered quite a bit. They weren't this mission value statement thing that you stuck on the wall and sort of pretended to care about, that they really measured and operated based on them. And I could talk about all of them, but that was pretty transformative. The last piece of being a customer was that role had a ton of people transformation, because we went from operating in this very calcified environment to a very agile, flexible cloud world, and a lot of transformation for the people. It was really fun to figure out how we could help the people grow and change, our employees, versus replacing them or hiring new folks all over the place. And I wanted to do that with more companies, and AWS gave me that opportunity to help other companies go and do that transformation.
That's awesome. Shaun talked about the leadership principles, and they really are the culture of our company. I remember when I was interviewing about 3.5 years ago, I looked at them, I read them, I'm like, okay, is this real? And I even asked people in the interview, are these ingrained in the culture as seriously as you say that they are? And sure enough, after joining, absolutely. I mean, there's not a single day that doesn't go by that we don't talk about a leadership principle in some way. And if we're ever challenged with what do we go do, what's the decision that we make, we rely on data, and we really rely on our leadership principles to guide us. So frankly, I found that to be super inspiring. And that brings to mind probably something that all the candidates in this room are thinking is, what leadership principles do you really look for in candidates? So now's time to take notes, maybe not. And everyone's a little bit different, and it definitely depends on the role and what we're looking for in that role. So I'll start with this one. It's really kind of good that we ended up, Shaun's on the technical side, I'm more on the sales, business development, partner side, because we might have slightly different answers here, which is great. Shaun talked about the customer obsession. That's definitely one of the #1 leadership principles that I look for. When he talked again about it's not a typical sales culture, it is not. I remember coming into the company focused on closing and negotiating a large agreement, and the customer said, okay, it's quarter end. I said, okay, we don't have to get this signed if it's not the right agreement for you and it's not the right agreement for us. We'll move quickly, of course, but let's take our time and get the right deal done. And then I hung up the phone, I had this out-of-body experience, because I've never said that in my life. But it's true. This is a customer-obsessed culture, and that's what I look for in sales candidates. I also look for think big, specifically in the ISV space. I talked about the fact that these are big, massive customers, but they're also partners, and we're doing really creative partnerships with them, and we go into industries together in ways that we couldn't on our own. We build solutions together, we co-sell together, and we find different angles to do that to bring value to our customers. So think big is really, really important leadership principle that I look for. And finally, I could go on. Can I have the mic for a while?
Yeah, please.
But dive deep. Dive deep is another one. You might hear about a writing culture. If you haven't already, I'd encourage you to study up on that. And the reason that we write is so that we can really dive deep into the situation and into the facts and into the data to make a good decision. If we make a decision based on PowerPoint, It might be based on the fact that Shaun does really great PowerPoint and is a good presenter, and it might be the wrong, that's probably true, might be the wrong decision. So dive deep. You really can't be successful here if you don't have that. So what's your perspective on what you look for in candidates?
Yeah, first I'll admit my PowerPoint skills have been atrophying 3 years plus I've been here, even though I still get to do one occasionally with a customer. Saw some fun ones this morning. You will get different answers. Different people look for different LPs because they all actually matter. That doesn't mean you should be stressed out and think about every LP all day long. In our technology teams, in our field tech teams, I'm not going to mention customer obsession because that's sort of a baseline. Like, we live with our customers, of course, we're super customer obsessed. Learn and be curious. I hear from a lot of candidates, hey, I'm nervous. I'm applying for this really senior role at AWS and tech, and I don't have my certification in X, or I've never been in the AWS console, or I never had infrastructure background as an application developer, or I have build background as an app dev, but I don't know the latest frameworks, or whatever. Learn and be curious washes all that away. We look for people who have a passion to learn and grow themselves. You go figure the rest of it out, right? It's not about having to go and check a box on some specific technical piece. It's your passion for learning and where that comes through and how you do that. And do you do it not just because you're asked to do it, because you want to do it. You want to learn and grow. That's one. Kathy mentioned dive deep. My only comment I'll make on dive deep that might be a bit different than others is I look for dive deep a lot in our most senior talent. If you talk to someone at a classic industry company, some of you might be at those companies, they tend to think as you move up the ranks, I don't care if you're a bigger manager, executive, or just a bigger, more senior contributor, they're like, you should be diving deep less. You have junior people who get into the details for you. That is not our culture. Our culture is everyone should be willing to dive deep. And I can pick really trite examples. I can pick really complicated examples. I just got off a really awesome monthly call we have with our CEO and his directs. I was literally in the room listening in on that call before. And he would ask tough questions to his most senior leaders that expected to have a deep command of their business. And that goes all the way down. So dive deep is something I know everyone in this room can do. You might have been trained not to do it for a while. Unlearn that. It's worth it. There's no work that's probably beneath an employee at AWS. And maybe last but not least, bias for action. In a lot of companies, you are nervous about making decisions. If you make the wrong decision, you get in trouble, right? And you want to check with as many people as possible. You want to get air cover and permission. I will tell you that we love people who think through, is this decision reversible? Is this decision impactful? And we have them go and make those decisions quickly. That's bias for action.
Awesome. Thank you. We're getting the hook. And it's been super great to spend time with you this evening. Hope you enjoy the event, and thank you again for coming. Thanks, Shaun.